Chapter 92. Love and Longing. I was under the impression that two were coming, young battle princess. Grand Duchess Verk-Yun remarks coolly. The battle princess in question is dressed just as elegantly as her counterpart. Massive flaring gowns with red silk and green lace, pendants with massive jewels connect them together, and her hair appears to have quintupled in size, and is magnificently styled up in a defiance of gravity, as is only appropriate for being within the empress's palace. I'm here. I just thought it prudent not to be seen. I'm rather recognizable at the moment, Vernon remarks from beside Mironoir. And you likely shall be for years to come. Regardless, the people will merely have to grow used to your celebrity. Return to visibility, please. Grand Duchess Verk-Yun orders and Vernon fades into view. He's dressed in furs that form loose pants and a loose vest with a hooded cloak. Coiled around all of it are innumerable vines that weave in and out of the hides and wrap completely around his feet and arms to keep them covered before twining up his neck and framing his face before weaving into his hair. All told, only his fingers, toes, and face are visible between the fur and the grasping vines. You certainly cut quite the figure. Traditional sorcerer adornments? I'm a battle princess. A formal dance shell and robe for my husband is too ostentatious. However, my beloved is a sorcerer, which means that their manner of dress is far more appropriate. Mironoir remarks. Not to mention there's the contention of titles and who earns what after the final tournament round ended with my husband being the only one to break any shells. Also, this is surprisingly comfortable. It looks goofy, but it all weaves together and just feels good, Vernon remarks. It's not goofy, it's a symbol. As my gown is a sign that I am in such control that I need neither armor nor anything robust in my clothing, yours is a sign that you can push past all societal norms and even say that it looks goofy, despite it being respected. Mironoir explains to him before petering off as the sheer oddness of the situation hits her. Did I just make this meta? Vernon asks with a smile. I'm not sure what that means, but by mocking the outfit, you've embodied it all the more. Well done, Verk-Yun remarks. Follow me, please, she says, before turning around and guiding the two deeper into the palace. Vernon's head is almost on a swivel as he looks from tapestry to tapestry with numerous scenes of battle and even romance with backdrops of sweeping plains and the dark forest show up time and again. Several times they pass entire groups debating among themselves that go quiet at their approach. Many of them attempt to follow, but a stern look from Mironoir freezes them all in their tracks. It's strange how the palace shifts from high-tech to almost medieval between the conveniences dotted around and the art style. Tapestries showing enormous tournaments and stained glass depicting a group of princesses waging a straight-up war against a singular sorcerer are illuminated tactfully with white light from tiny spotlights to ensure everything that was painstakingly put together in a traditional manner coupled with advanced technology. The building itself is reinforced and seems to crackle with energy. The ancient shutters that are open to reveal the stained glass are thrumming with power, all directed defensively. This is an ancient medieval palace that can withstand orbital bombardment. They're led onto a carpet woven in a pattern to resemble crossed swords before a pair of massive kutha and gold-plated door opens before them. At the end of the hall is an enormous gilded throne where an Apuk woman in a delicate pink gown and with a simple, almost invisible crown among her golden hair sits in the lap of a large Apuk man, outright bulging with muscle and with a large bushy mustache. The man is in a semi-formal with slacks, a button-up shirt and vest. It's the strangest thing about Apuk culture. The more effort you have to put in to be something the lower down the list you are, to a point. The serving staff aren't in ornate dresses and gowns. But in formal situations, the higher rank someone is the less effort they put in. Because everyone else has to impress them, They don't have to impress those beneath them. The more competent and confident a warrior, the less armor and weapons you find around them, because they're dangerous without them. Miro Noir, as a warrior, is completely divested of armor and weapons because she's deadly without them. Sorcerers throwing on animal hides and weaving vines into it for clothing was both an tacit threat, as the vines could and would function with their sorcery, and a display of social power in their complete disregard of societal norms, which made it all the more appealing to the Apuk. Being powerful enough to not care is a big thing to them. Or rather, it's about being so strong that you can simply ignore the ramifications. He doesn't know exactly which it is, but it's a power move to dress down. I suppose you'd have to be dressed like that. You represent a dozen different things, and a sorcerer is the only one that doesn't slap the face of the others. The man says, and after a quick moment to chew things over, Vernon decided to answer as a sorcerer must. "I'm sorry, who are you? I thought we were meeting with the empress, not her bed warmer," Vernon asks, and Miro Noir's eyes widen a bit before both the empress and her husband break out into laughter. "That's a sorcerer's impertinence," the empress says with a giggle. "It's actually rather easy to understand. Just understand what you're capable of and know where that places you should things erupt into battle. I've got several other techniques I haven't shown from the tournament on top of everything within the tournament, which includes full-on sorcery," Vernon explains. "But that doesn't give you license to be rude," Miro Noir remarks. "And you, young lady, are you going to push as well?" the empress asks Miro Noir, who seems to fluster for a moment before steeling herself. Vernon and the empress's partner glare each other down as tension fills the air and starts to physically crackle as the axiom grows agitated around them. Then it all just fades away as the Apuk man calms down and forcibly steps back a bit, followed by Vernon relaxing much more naturally. "My goodness, you do know our customs. I've just lost a wager. I had thought you had found a way to mimic sorcery as opposed to actually being a sorcerer. To do that, I would have had to fool a sorcerer to begin with. Bryn Char was there to validate my credentials as one," Vernon protests. "Sorcerers have been deceived before, far more often than there have been non-Apuk sorcerers. Forgive me for assuming what statistically is the more probable choice. I suppose being the first at something does make it rather hard to believe," Vernon remarks. Yes. Now that you boys have had fun with your little power play, you are here for a reason," the empress says, and the large Apuk man turns away and walks to lean against the throne. It really plays just how petite the empress is. She looks almost like a child compared to him. In any other race it would be a sign of weakness, but in the Apuk it was about absolute certainty of her capacity. "Sorry about that. It's sort of a sorcerer tradition," Vernon whispers to Miro Noir. "I'm aware. It doesn't make it any less intimidating to be on either side of a sorcerer's display," Miro Noir remarks. "I'll make it up to you when I help you out of that dress," he promises her, and she flushes a little at the thought. Sorcerers," the empress says. "The lack of decorum is perversely a sign of respect. No needing to butter each other up or put up false fronts to look strong. It's a very strange system where pushing too far too fast can get you killed, but performing correctly makes you look like you're just breezing along to outside perspectives. Such a rare thing among my people, such a valued thing. I do hope you're aware that several of my duchesses and baronets have been pressuring me into mandating that your marriage with Battle Princess Miro Noir be opened up for their daughters to become part of it. Thankfully, tradition serves us both, as they have to get their requests past a proven battle princess, when many of them have inherited their titles rather than earned them, meaning that they cannot force the issue." Miro Noir notes, then rallies herself, "which is something I already knew, as I've been sending refusals and rejections every day. So perhaps, my empress, instead of wasting more of our time together, you get to the point. There's the teeth. Good to see you still have them despite your time among the softer races. The Empress remarks with a smile. Mr. Shea, your commanding officer has informed me that you will be liaisoning with the volunteers off the Dauntless to help found a multi-species sorceress tradition. How has that progressed? The Dark Forest Terrazin will be the location we'll be setting up shop. We're going to be taking aspects from a piece of human history and myth and using that as a springboard to help get others organized and into the paths of sorcery without interfering with natural Apuk sorcerers. That way you get to keep your traditional sorcerers as well as gain these new types. Vernon explains as he pulls out a data chip. He then throws it to the Empress's partner who catches it. Well, don't keep me in suspense. What is it? What traditions are you bringing in? She prompts. Shinobi, also known as the ninja. In ancient Japan, a mountain-covered island nation, there lived secluded clans of survival and stealth masters, so skilled in their arts that it was said they could use magic. They were so good at what they did, they were getting results that a person would associate with axiom use, despite living deep within cruel space. Most ninja lived in obscurity. Those who were well known were those who got caught and often horrifically executed. However, much of their philosophy and many of the tricks and techniques they used have the same mental starting point as sorcery, oneness with nature, also respect for the world around you and how you fit into it, Vernon explains. And how does that fit into my world and people? It means that in Terrazin Forest there will be a hidden village of almost nothing but men. They will go there to train in these new methods of sorcery, and it should speed up the process. It usually takes many years, if not decades, for an Apuk child to grow into a sorcerer, often at great risk to themselves. With this hidden village, the child will have a place of refuge and safety as well as a great deal of help in their growth and development. The village itself will be primitive to encourage its citizens to listen to nature around them and open themselves up to the forests. But what will this look like? The Empress asks, just as her partner plugs in the data chip and turns on a projector from the throne that shows the image in midair. It does look homey and wholesome. A little farming village? All of it can be accelerated and modified with Axiom, but for the sake of self-discipline and physical conditioning, a great deal will be done by hand. The image shifts over to the next slide to show several images of traditional-looking ninjas sliding out of the shadows, racing on rooftops and vanishing in a cloud of smoke. All of this was done without Axiom? Yes, though they left behind such a legacy of mysticism and mystery that the stories were exaggerated to straight-up Axiom use even without the Axiom. In times of peace, they were merely extremely self-reliant peasants that lived in harmony with their surroundings. In times of war, they were unsurpassed messengers, scouts, spies, and at times even assassins. Why are they dressed like that? The Empress's partner asks. Dark blue is hard to see in shadows and blends in very well under Earth's moonlight. They often used a trick of psychology where when unalert, or just not paying attention, humans don't look up all that much. Few predators ever come from above, you see. So they played with that touch of psychology and tailored their camouflage to it. Vernon explains. By the by, no one's told me who he is yet. Vernon says casually, giving the man an odd look. Nelg Vritos. Isn't that one of the lines holding the title of Baron? Vernon asks, and Nelg nods. It is. I have several degrees in business and statistical analysis. It's been my pleasure to increase the average household income by nearly 5% over the past 10 years for the entire empire, he says. Now, just to be certain of something, are you aware of what happened in the tournament after you left? Yes, the other contestants still standing. Lori Vren and Cree Jules left without a word. Zion Hute was eventually freed several hours later with assistance and has since joined the Sisters of Inner Ember's Order, a monastic tradition based around humility and kindling benevolence within themselves. It's been used for rehabilitation purposes for millennia. They're very well regarded for it. Vernon explains before turning and outright pointing out one of the royal tapestries that shows a series of Apuk women with their hair cropped short and wearing only brown skirts with matching breast bindings, bringing a massive tribute of food and wine to an empress in days long past. "And has Miss Vren or Jewel contacted you?" Nelg asks, and Vernon shakes his head. "No, they haven't, though I do assume they're going to wait until after all the excitement has passed, which will take a while." Miro Noir answers, "Yes, it's an interesting circumstance all around. Officially, all of this is a wash. A tournament with no winners is rare but has happened before, just never out of protest to one's opponent." The Empress notes before sighing. "Still, I can't help but wonder at this," she says, and from next to the cushion she pulls out Vernon's tournament shell, repaired flawlessly. "Your kind certainly have a different ideas as to armor. It's elegant in its own manner and with the tri-type both practical and cheap. It's effectively ring mail armor, one of several types of armors developed by my kind. Without axiom to rely on, we had to get very creative in a variety of ways. Armor such as that was relatively easy to make, easy to repair, and easy to modify while also being very protective. The shells of your kind are effectively the cuirasses of full plate mail or even half of a cuirass with a focus upon the back. How very interesting. No doubt your kind has unusual tactics and even weapon variants to display as well," the Empress asks, and Vernon nods. "I've always been a bit of an amateur enthusiast." "Amateur? Where did this humility come from?" the Empress asks. "It's not humility, it's knowing my own capacity." Vernon dismisses. "You have learned our ways," Nelg notes with a raised eyebrow.